What if the biggest debate heading into the 2026 WNBA season isn't about talent, but about timing, system, and one critical condition that could change everything? Because when people talk about Caitlin Clark potentially dethroning Aya Wilson, they're not just comparing two elite players. They're really asking a deeper question. What does it actually take to become the best player in the WNBA right now? And here's the twist. Based on everything we've seen so far, Caitlin Clark may only be able to reach that level if one very specific condition is met. Now, before jumping to conclusions, let's ground this in reality. Aya Wilson isn't just another star. She's been the most dominant and consistent player in the league over the past few seasons. Multiple MVP-level performances, a championship leader, and someone who impacts both ends of the floor at an elite level. Her scoring efficiency, defensive presence, and leadership have made her the standard, not just a top player, but the benchmark. On the other side, Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA with unprecedented attention. Her college career was historic, breaking scoring records and reshaping how people view long-range shooting and offensive creativity. But the transition to the WNBA is never simple, and Clark's rookie season has already shown flashes of brilliance mixed with the expected growing pains. So the real question becomes, what separates these two players right now, and what needs to change for that gap to close? Let's start with what we know. Aya Wilson's dominance is built on efficiency and control. She scores at a high percentage, dominates inside, draws fouls, and anchors the defense. She doesn't need high-risk plays to take over a game. She imposes her will through consistency. Caitlin Clark, meanwhile, plays a completely different style. She stretches defenses with deep shooting, creates off the dribble, and generates offense not just for herself but for teammates. Her impact is more perimeter-based and tempo-driven. Neither approach is inherently better, but at the professional level, efficiency tends to win. And that's where the key condition starts to reveal itself. For Caitlin Clark to realistically challenge Aya Wilson as the best player in the league by 2026, one thing must happen: her efficiency and team control must catch up to her creativity. Right now, Clark's game thrives on high usage and high difficulty. Deep threes, fast-paced transitions, risky passes, these create highlight moments, but they also come with turnovers and inconsistency. According to recent discussions among analysts and fans, the biggest gap isn't talent, it's decision-making under pressure and adapting to the WNBA's physicality and defensive schemes. Reports suggest that WNBA defenses have already begun adjusting to Clark's style, forcing her into tougher shots and limiting easy opportunities. That's expected for any rookie, especially one with this level of attention. But for her to surpass someone like Aya Wilson, she'll need to evolve from a high-volume creator into a high-efficiency engine. And that's not just about her individually, it's also about the system around her. Because here's something that often gets overlooked: Aya Wilson's dominance is supported by structure. She plays within a system that maximizes her strengths. Ball movement, spacing, and experienced teammates allow her to operate efficiently without forcing plays. Caitlin Clark's situation is different. As a rookie, she's often asked to carry a heavy offensive load. She's initiating plays, taking tough shots late in the clock, and dealing with defenses designed specifically to stop her. Fans are reacting strongly to this dynamic. Some believe Clark is being asked to do too much too soon, while others argue that these challenges are necessary for her development. Both perspectives have merit. Because if we look historically, most players who reach MVP-level dominance go through a phase of adjustment, learning when to take over and when to control the game. That's where the one condition becomes clearer. Caitlin Clark doesn't just need to improve. She needs a system that allows her to play smarter, not harder. This means better spacing, more reliable secondary scoring, and a structure that reduces her need to force difficult plays. If that happens, her natural talent could become far more efficient. And that's when things get interesting. Because when Clark is in rhythm, she changes the geometry of the court. Defenses have to extend far beyond the three-point line, opening lanes and creating opportunities that few players can generate. If she can combine that with improved shot selection and reduced turnovers, her impact could rival anyone in the league. But we also need to be realistic. Aya Wilson isn't standing still. She continues to refine her game, improve her leadership, and dominate physically. There's no guarantee that even an improved Caitlin Clark surpasses her, because Wilson's baseline is already so high. So the conversation isn't just about Clark catching up. It's about whether she can reach a level that exceeds one of the most complete players in the league. And that brings us to another layer of this discussion: how we define dethroning. Is it about stats? MVP awards? Team success? Because depending on the criteria, the answer could change. If it's purely individual numbers, Clark has the potential to put up massive stats, especially as her role grows. If it's efficiency and two-way impact, Aya Wilson currently has the clear edge. If it's team success, then roster construction and coaching become major factors. According to recent discussions, many analysts believe that true dethroning would require a combination of all three: individual excellence, efficiency, and winning at the highest level. That's a tall order. And it's why the 2026 timeline is so important. By then, Caitlin Clark will no longer be a rookie adjusting to the league. She'll be expected to have developed her decision-making, adapted to defensive schemes, and built chemistry with her team. That's typically when elite players make the leap. Fans are already debating whether that leap will happen. Some are confident that Clark's unique skill set will eventually translate into MVP-level dominance. Others are more cautious, pointing out that not all great college players reach that level in the WNBA. And then, there's a middle ground: the idea that Clark can become one of the league's best players without necessarily surpassing Aya Wilson. That's an important distinction, because sometimes the conversation becomes too binary, as if one player's rise requires another's fall. In reality, the league can have multiple superstars at the same time. But from a narrative standpoint, comparisons are inevitable, and they often say more about expectations than reality. Caitlin Clark entered the league with expectations that few players have ever faced. Every performance is analyzed, every stat debated, every moment amplified. That level of scrutiny can accelerate development, but it can also create unrealistic timelines. So when people say she needs to dethrone Aya Wilson by 2026, it's worth asking, is that expectation fair? Or is it more reflective of how quickly fans want to see greatness? Because development in the WNBA isn't just about talent, it's about adaptation. The league is faster, stronger, and more tactical than college basketball. Players study tendencies, exploit weaknesses, and adjust quickly. For Clark, that means evolving her game in ways that may not always be visible in highlight reels. Improving efficiency, reducing turnovers, managing pace, these are the subtle changes that separate good players from great ones. And they take time. At the same time, there are signs of progress. Clark's passing ability, court vision, and shooting range are already elite. When she's in control of the game, her impact is undeniable. The challenge is consistency. And that brings us back to the central condition. For Caitlin Clark to truly challenge Aya Wilson's position at the top of the league, she needs a balance between freedom and structure. Too much freedom leads to inefficiency. Too much structure could limit her creativity. Finding that balance, both individually and within her team, is what could unlock her full potential. Fans are reacting to this idea in different ways. Some believe the responsibility falls entirely on Clark, that she needs to adjust her game and improve her decision-making. Others argue that team context is just as important, that no player can reach their peak without the right system and support. According to recent discussions, the truth likely lies somewhere in between. Great players adapt, but great systems also elevate players. Aya Wilson benefits from both. For Clark to reach that level, she'll need the same alignment. And if that happens by 2026, then the conversation could shift dramatically. Because at that point, we wouldn't just be talking about potential, we'd be looking at results. High efficiency, controlled pace, reduced turnovers, and team success. That's the formula. Without it, the gap remains. With it, the race becomes real. And that's what makes this debate so compelling. It's not just about who's better, it's about what it takes to become the best. So as we look ahead to 2026, the question isn't simply whether Caitlin Clark can dethrone Aya Wilson. It's whether she can meet that one critical condition, transforming her game from explosive to efficient, from high risk to controlled dominance, while still maintaining the creativity that makes her unique. Because if she can, then we may be witnessing the rise of a new standard in the WNBA. But if not, Aya Wilson's reign might continue longer than many expect. And that leaves us with one final question. By 2026, will Caitlin Clark adapt her game enough, and find the right system, to truly challenge the top spot, or will Aya Wilson continue to define what greatness looks like in the WNBA?